to the next, one of the things which kind of take my attention is that you write about the Oromo slave. I see on page 78 said a group of slaves from Abyssinia liberated by British warship in 1888 of the coast of Yemen. They were settled in South Africa. One of the women, Bishero Jarso, had a daughter with Damito, who was married to David Alexander. They had a son called Neville. Neville Alexander, an anti-apartheid activist. And he's arrested along Mandella at the Robin Island. He became a permanent educator list. You have your source here, and they're actually saying how an Ethiopian slave became a South African teacher. One of the things that attracted my attention is that the struggling of Oromo society is not limited only in East Africa, because as you see here, there was Oromo arrested in South Africa and struggling and fighting against the Apartheid. And I want to talk about that.
Okay, this is a very good. I supposed to mention this earlier. United States and Ethiopia formed the relationship in 1903, and then when the Ethiopia and United States created this milestone diplomatic relationship. The United States diplomat that came to Ethiopia then, his name was Robert Skinner. He denied that there was no slavery in Ethiopia. He tried to defend that whatever the Abyssinians or the Emperor Minilik was doing to the Oromo people, to the Kafa, to the Janjuro, to the Majangara and different Ethiopian ethnic groups were an act of civilizing them and an act of teaching them a superior Christian values. By just conquering them, educating them, by teaching them the virtue of the Christian and how to live like a civilized nation. But I mean, when you see different literatures written in the account of different European travelers, you come across that this very huge industry of slavery, which was not reported by the United States diplomat, which in fact he was trying to hide it. So Ethiopia was not as such a beacon of Christianity, and it's not a beacon of Christianity or a country that stood as a symbol of the liberation of black people. But Ethiopia, under the Menelik, was a country which was responsible for colonizing and enslaving millions of the indigenous African people, the Oromos, the Kambatas, the Hadiyas, the Kafas, and different ethnic groups. So at that time, if I just go into history and give you some information, Minilik was just selling, or he was managed to sell more than like 1,250,000 slaves during his reign as emperor of that country. And the vast majority of these slaves were coming from the western part of the present-day Ethiopia and from the southwestern part of the Ethiopia. And even there was this country called like Baria Hager. It's a land. It's just like people just going out to hunt people. They just go to this Baria Hager and just droving like hundreds or thousands of slaves and bringing them and selling them abroad. So this is the history that was not reported, and it's the history of an industrial scale of slavery that took place during the reign of Minilik and then under the subsequent emperors. So it is one of this history whereby the British managed to liberate these Oromo slaves taken from western parts of Oromia on the way to Yemen. They were just liberated off the coast of Yemen, and then some of them were taken to South Africa, and some of them were taken to Ireland because they could not, cope with the weather of the western countries, so they were taken to tropical Africa and settled in South Africa. And then it was there that, some of them were married to the indigenous South Africans, and this one of the girl you mentioned, Bishu Jarsa, married to a certain South African guy called Neville. He had this son called Neville Alexander, who became a doctor and very much famous, and he became a hero, and he fought against apartheid, against Mandela and Walter Sisulu and other pioneers of the freedom of South African people. And as you said, the interesting thing is the Oromos are not even fighting only tyrannies within Ethiopia. They were contributing to abolish They hated apartheid system. So
Right.
the Oromos, wherever they're going, they're just resisting the tyranny and fighting with the people who are just speaking out against the oppressors and seeking their right.
I want to keep you into on the same subject, which is about Minilik also cut the whole Pan-African Conference in early 20th century, and they refused to be a part of the association of the Negro race.
Yeah.
And can you elaborate on this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is one of the very interesting things. When we talk about the image of Ethiopia, we assume that Ethiopia is a country that is a beacon of the independence of the black race.
Yes.
Ethiopia is a symbol of liberation and inspiration and emancipation and everything good about the independence of a black nation.
Right.
That is the image.
Right.
But I mean, if you just get into reality and try to see what Menelik did to the Africans, like the Oromos, like the Somalis and the others, they feel like they are superior. They belong to the white nations of Caucasian race, of Sememon and Kyun of Shiba. So they just consider themselves like superior to the rest of the neighbors and justified the expansion, the colonial expansion, as a project of civilization them and introducing their superior civilization into the conquered areas.
Right.
It is because of this mentality that Menelik was not in a position to accept his blackness. His blackness.
Yeah.
Because there was an African-American activist
Who was struggling for
yes.
Yeah.
And the Pan-Africanists who just went to Addis Ababa to make Menelik as a towering figure of Pan-African movement.
Because the only independent country during those times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When Benito Silva of Haiti
Right.
went to Addis Ababa, to his court, to his sick, his blessing for his project of amelioration of the black people's cause.
Right.
Menelik was said, I'm not a black king, I'm a Caucasian. You are just knocking at the wrong door. Just get away from me.
Right.
I'm not interested in any black agenda.
Right.
So Menelik never considered himself as a black
liberator,
liberator, as a hero of black people.
Yep.
He denied his colors.
Yeah.
He said, I'm a Caucasian.
Right.
I don't have any cultural or religious link with the black nations.
Right.
He considered the black nations as inferior, as the Negroes. They want to be enslaved. They want to be civilized, to become a good man and a Christian. So that's why he just rejected the idea of participation of Ethiopia in any Negro or black movement of the time.
I want to move to the next question. You also mentioned about the expansion of Abyssinia between 1889 to which ended in I think 1898. And during those times, the almost half of the Oromo society was massacred. And one of the things is you didn't actually put the exact figure, but from most of the Oromo things, almost the population of Oromo during those times is almost cut in half, which is more than 5 million people was dead. So most of the Ethiopians or most of the people think the population of Ethiopia or the population Oromo during 18th century, between 1889 to 1898, it wouldn't reach up to 10 million people.